What makes a country truly powerful? Level B. 2. Upper intermediate. When people hear the word power, they often imagine tanks, missiles, and a strong army. They picture huge flags, big speeches, and leaders who speak with confidence. They think power means control, the ability to force others to do what you want. But real power is more complex than that. A country can look powerful on television and still be fragile inside. Another country can seem quiet and small, yet influence the world in ways that are hard to see. So what makes a country truly powerful? The honest answer is that power is not one thing. It is a combination of strengths that work together over many years. Some parts of power are visible, like economic size or military technology. Other parts are invisible, like trust in institutions, social stability, or the quality of education. And the most important detail is this: power is not only about winning today, it is about staying strong tomorrow. Let's start with a simple idea. A powerful country is not just one that can push others. It is one that can solve problems, protect its people, and adapt to change. It can recover from crises. It can manage conflicts without destroying itself. It can grow without losing its social balance. It can compete without becoming paranoid. It can disagree inside the country without breaking into chaos. This is why power is not only external. External power matters, of course, but internal power is the base. If the base is weak, the country will shake when pressure comes, and pressure always comes. Economic shocks happen. Pandemics happen. Natural disasters happen. New technologies change jobs. Neighbors become hostile. Global markets move. A country that cannot manage stress is not truly powerful, even if it looks impressive for a short time. One of the strongest sources of real power is a healthy, productive economy. Money is not everything, but without it, many other things become difficult. A strong economy gives the state resources for education, infrastructure, science, healthcare, and defense. It also gives people jobs, stable incomes, and hope for the future. When people feel they can build a life, society becomes calmer. When people feel stuck, society becomes angry. But the size of the economy is not the whole story. Some countries have a large economy because they have a large population and a lot of natural resources. That helps, but it can also create a trap. If a country depends mostly on one type of income, like oil, gas, or one main export, it may look rich, but it can be vulnerable. One price drop can cause a crisis. Also, dependence on easy money can reduce motivation to innovate. If money comes from the ground, leaders may forget that modern power often comes from the mind. Innovation is a key word here. Truly powerful countries are usually able to create new technologies and new ideas. They do not only buy knowledge from others, they produce it. They build universities, laboratories, research centers, and business ecosystems where smart people can try things, fail, learn, and try again. This requires money, but it also requires culture. It requires tolerance for mistakes and long-term thinking. That is why education is not a nice extra. It is one of the strongest engines of national power. A country with strong schools and strong universities builds human capital. Human capital means skilled people: engineers, doctors, teachers, designers, scientists, builders, managers. Skills create value. Value creates growth. Growth creates stability. Stability creates trust. Trust creates cooperation. And cooperation allows a society to do big projects. Education also affects how people think. In a powerful country, citizens usually have basic critical thinking skills. They can read, compare information, and recognize manipulation more often. This does not mean citizens are always wise, but it increases the chances of rational public debate. A population that can think clearly is harder to control with cheap propaganda. And when politics becomes less emotional and more factual, the state can make better decisions. Better decisions are a form of power. Now we come to institutions. Institutions are the systems that make a country work. Courts, police, tax offices, schools, healthcare, regulators, elections, and the rules that connect all of them. Many people underestimate institutions because they are boring. They prefer dramatic leaders and strong personalities. But countries are not machines driven by one person. They are complex systems. When institutions are weak, everything becomes personal. Decisions depend on relationships, not rules. Corruption becomes normal. People stop trusting the system. And when trust disappears, cooperation becomes difficult. Trust is an invisible power, but it is huge. In a high-trust society, people can plan long-term. Businesses invest because they believe rules will be stable. Citizens pay taxes because they believe money will be used properly. People follow laws not only out of fear, but because they believe laws are fair. When trust is high, the country becomes more efficient. Less energy is wasted on protection, bribery, and constant suspicion. More energy goes into creativity and productivity. On the other hand, in low-trust societies, everyone feels they must defend themselves. People hide income. They avoid official systems. They try to survive by bending rules. This makes the state weaker and forces it to use more control to keep order. But control is expensive. It creates resistance and fear. Fear destroys innovation and honest discussion. Over time, the country becomes less flexible, and flexibility is a key part of power. Another important part of power is social cohesion. This is the ability of people to live together without constant internal conflict. Social cohesion does not mean everyone thinks the same. That would be unrealistic and unhealthy. It means disagreements do not become war. It means different groups still feel they belong to the same national project. In some countries, people strongly disagree on politics, religion, or culture, but they still accept the rules of the game. They still believe they are part of one society. In other countries, groups see each other as enemies. When that happens, any external crisis becomes more dangerous because internal conflict becomes stronger. A truly powerful country can manage diversity, disagreement, and change without falling apart. This is connected to another topic, legitimacy. Legitimacy means citizens accept the government as rightful, even when they do not like every decision. Legitimacy can come from elections, from history, from performance, or from shared values. When legitimacy is strong, the government can ask society to sacrifice during hard times. People may complain, but they cooperate. When legitimacy is weak, even small problems can create huge protests because people feel the system is unfair. Now, let's talk about military power, because we cannot ignore it. A strong military can protect a country from invasion and can increase its influence. But military power has limits. It cannot easily solve economic problems, demographic decline, or social division. It can destroy, but it cannot easily build. Also, in the modern world, war is expensive and risky. Even a victory can be a disaster if it destroys trade, investment, and long-term stability. This is why smart countries treat military power as one tool among many, not as the only tool. The strongest countries usually combine hard power and soft power. Hard power is force. The military, economic sanctions, cyber capabilities, intelligence. Soft power is attraction, culture, values, education, diplomacy, reputation, the ability to convince others without threats. Soft power sounds gentle, but it is extremely practical. When other countries respect you, they want to work with you. When your universities attract international students, you shape future elites. When your films, music, and products are loved, your image becomes positive. When your companies set global standards, the world begins to follow your rules without noticing. This is power that looks like cooperation, but it still creates influence. Diplomacy is part of this. A truly powerful country has skilled diplomats and a consistent strategy. It builds alliances. It understands that relationships matter. No country, even a superpower, can solve every problem alone. Global power often depends on networks, trade networks, security networks, technology networks. A country that isolates itself may feel proud, but isolation reduces information, reduces opportunities, and reduces resilience. Resilience is another key word. Resilience means the ability to survive shocks and continue functioning. A resilient country has diversified supply chains, stable institutions, emergency systems, and social trust. During a crisis, it can act fast without destroying rights or causing panic. It can correct mistakes. It can learn. Learning is a form of strength. At this point, you may notice something interesting. Many sources of real power are slow. They take time. You cannot create trust in 1 year. You cannot build strong institutions overnight. You cannot suddenly produce world-class education with one reform. This is why real power is often invisible in the short term. It looks boring. It looks like paperwork. But over decades, it creates incredible strength. However, there is also a darker side. Power can be used well or badly. A country can be powerful and still create harm. It can influence others for selfish goals. It can control information. It can use technology to monitor citizens. So, when we talk about true power, we should also ask, power for what? Is power only the ability to win, or is it the ability to create a stable and fair life for people? A modern definition of power should include the well-being of citizens. If citizens are poor, sick, afraid, or hopeless, then what is the point of national strength? A country exists for its people, not the opposite. When citizens have access to healthcare, education, safety, and opportunity, society becomes stronger. People become more productive. They trust the future. They invest in families and businesses. They cooperate with the state. This creates a positive cycle. There is also the issue of demographics. A country with a shrinking population faces challenges: fewer workers, higher costs for pensions and healthcare, and slower growth. Immigration can help, but it requires smart integration. A country that can manage demographic change responsibly has more long-term power than one that ignores it. The environment matters too. Climate change, water shortages, heat waves, and natural disasters can weaken states. A powerful country in the 21st century needs energy security and sustainable infrastructure. If a country depends on unstable resources or ignores environmental risks, it may face sudden and expensive crises. Preparing for these risks is not ideology. It is basic strategic thinking. So, if we try to summarize Part 1, we can say this: true power is a system. It includes economic strength, innovation, education, institutions, trust, social cohesion, diplomacy, resilience, and the ability to adapt. Military strength matters, but it is not enough. A truly powerful country is not only feared, it is respected. It is not only loud, it is stable. It is not only rich today, it is prepared for tomorrow. One of the biggest changes in modern history is that power is increasingly connected to information. In the past, a country could hide problems for a long time. News traveled slowly, and people had fewer sources. Today, information moves in seconds. A small event in one city can become global news within hours. People can record, publish, and share anything. This creates new opportunities, but also new dangers. A powerful country is not only one that can control the narrative. That idea sounds tempting, but it often backfires. Real strength comes from the ability to handle truth. If a country can accept criticism, collect honest data, and correct mistakes, it becomes smarter over time. But if a country builds its power on hiding reality, it becomes blind. It starts believing its own propaganda. Leaders hear only what they want to hear. Then they make decisions based on a fantasy, not on facts. And eventually, reality wins, because reality always wins. This is why independent expertise, free research, and professional journalism can be forms of national strength, not weakness. They are uncomfortable, yes. They create scandals. They show failures. But they also make it possible to improve. When you can see a problem clearly, you can fix it. When you cannot see it, the problem grows quietly until it becomes a crisis. The ability to produce reliable information is also connected to science and statistics. During a pandemic, for example, countries that had better systems for medical data and public communication could react faster. In an economic crisis, countries with transparent financial systems can restore trust more quickly. Information is not just media. Information is the nervous system of a state. Now let's talk about technology, because technology has become one of the most important fields of competition. In the 21st century, power is strongly connected to who controls key technologies and who sets the standards. Semiconductor chips, AI, cybersecurity tools, satellites, communication networks, energy storage, and biotech are not only business, they are strategic resources. A country that leads in technology can increase productivity, improve defense, and shape global markets. Its companies become part of other countries' daily life, which creates influence. Think about how many people use foreign phones, operating systems, social media platforms, or payment systems. When your technology becomes the default, you gain leverage, even without direct force. But technological power is not only about creating products, it is also about protecting systems. Cyber power is now a major part of national security. Attacks can target banks, hospitals, airports, or elections. They can create chaos without one soldier crossing a border. That is why strong cybersecurity, strong digital infrastructure, and skilled technical talent are forms of real power. However, technology can also weaken countries if they use it badly. Surveillance may increase control, but it can destroy trust. Disinformation may help in the short term, but it damages social cohesion. If citizens don't trust what they see, society becomes anxious and divided. People stop agreeing, even on basic facts. That is dangerous. A powerful country needs citizens who can cooperate, and cooperation requires a shared reality. Let's move to infrastructure, which is often ignored because it looks boring. Yet infrastructure is one of the clearest signs of real strength. Roads, railways, ports, power grids, water systems, internet networks, housing, and public transport are not just conveniences. They are the physical foundation of economic life. When infrastructure is strong, businesses can move goods efficiently. People can travel to work, cities can grow, and emergencies can be handled faster. When infrastructure is weak, everything becomes harder. Companies spend more, productivity drops, and frustration grows. Bad infrastructure also increases inequality because rich people can buy private solutions while poor people suffer. Over time, inequality can reduce social cohesion and increase political instability. And instability is the enemy of long-term power. Energy is especially important. A country that depends on unstable energy sources or on one main supplier can be pressured from outside. Energy security means stable supply, diversified sources, and the ability to adapt to new energy realities. In the future, countries that manage the transition to cleaner energy successfully may gain major advantages. Those who fail may face economic shocks, health problems, and political conflict. Now, we should talk about culture and national mindset, because power is also psychological. In some societies, people believe the future can be better. They trust that effort will be rewarded. They feel that laws apply to everyone. They feel proud of building something together. In other societies, people expect cheating, corruption, and unfairness. They believe success is only for those with connections. They focus on surviving, not on creating. This mindset changes everything. If most people believe the system is unfair, they will not invest their energy honestly. They will try to take what they can quickly because they don't believe tomorrow is safe. This creates a cycle where the country cannot grow stable institutions. But if people believe the system can work, they cooperate more. That cooperation becomes a huge advantage in competition with other countries. This is why morality and law are not only ethical questions, they are strategic questions. A country with a predictable legal system can attract investment, talent, and partnerships. A country with arbitrary rule may have fast decisions, but it also has high risk, and high risk scares away long-term investment. Of course, leadership still matters. A good leader can speed up reforms, unite people, and set a clear direction. A bad leader can waste resources and create conflicts. But leadership is not only about charisma. The best leaders are often not the loudest. They build teams, respect expertise, and accept feedback. They think in years, not days. At the same time, leaders are limited by institutions. A country that depends too much on one person becomes fragile. If one person is the center of everything, then one mistake can cause huge damage. Strong institutions create continuity. They make the country more stable, even when leaders change. This is why mature democracies often look slow. But that slowness can be a kind of stability. It prevents extreme swings. It creates rules that are stronger than personalities. Now we come to a very important question. How do countries lose power? This is where the topic becomes more serious, because history shows that decline often starts inside, not outside. A country can have great resources and still become weaker if it falls into certain traps. One trap is corruption becoming normal. Corruption is not only stealing money, it is stealing efficiency, trust, and motivation. When corruption is common, the best projects don't win. The best people don't rise. The system rewards loyalty over competence. Over time, the country becomes less innovative and less productive. It may still look strong, but it becomes hollow. Another trap is extreme inequality. Some inequality exists everywhere, but when the gap becomes too big, society breaks into separate worlds. The rich live in safety and comfort, and the poor live with fear and anger. Middle class shrinks. Social mobility disappears. People stop believing in the national story. When enough people feel excluded, stability becomes expensive and fragile. Another trap is becoming addicted to short-term success. Leaders may focus on quick wins that look good on TV. They may ignore long-term investments like education, healthcare, and infrastructure because those take time and don't create immediate applause. But long-term investments are exactly what create true power. When a country stops investing, it slowly loses its future. It may not notice it first, then suddenly it faces a crisis and realizes it has no strong foundation. A fourth trap is isolation. Some countries isolate themselves because they feel threatened or because they want full control. But isolation has costs. It reduces trade. It reduces knowledge exchange. It reduces cultural connections. It can also create a closed bubble where leaders don't understand the world anymore. In a global economy, isolation usually reduces growth and resilience. A fifth trap is internal division. When politics becomes war between groups, trust disappears. Every decision becomes a battle. People stop listening. They start seeing each other as enemies. Foreign actors can easily exploit that division, but even without outside influence, division destroys national energy. Instead of building, society fights itself, and a country fighting itself cannot compete well with others. Now let's look to the future, because power is changing. In the past, geography was a huge factor. If you had a good location and big resources, you had advantages. Geography still matters, but today networks matter more. Countries that are connected to global systems of finance, science, and technology can gain power even if they are small. We can see this in countries that specialize in innovation, logistics, finance, or diplomacy. In the future, talent will be one of the most valuable resources. Countries will compete for skilled people, engineers, doctors, researchers, artists, and entrepreneurs. This means quality of life becomes part of national strategy. If a country wants talent, it must offer safety, opportunity, fair rules, and a good environment to live. A powerful country is not only one that keeps its people inside, it is one that people want to join. Another future factor is AI and automation. These technologies can increase productivity, but they can also create social shocks if jobs disappear too quickly. A powerful country will be one that can manage this transition, retrain workers, and reduce social pain. Again, this is about institutions and planning, not only about having the technology. Climate and resources will also shape power. Water security, food security, and disaster preparedness will become more important. Countries that invest early in resilient infrastructure, smart agriculture, and energy transition will reduce risks. Countries that ignore these issues may face growing crises that weaken stability. So, what is the final answer to the question, what makes a country truly powerful? It is the ability to keep functioning and improving under pressure. It is the ability to create value, protect citizens, and adapt to change without destroying the social fabric. It is the ability to build trust, because trust creates cooperation, and cooperation creates strength. A truly powerful country is not one that looks perfect. It is one that can face reality honestly. It can admit problems without collapse. It can reform without chaos. It can compete without losing its humanity. It can disagree inside its society without violence. It can influence the world not only through fear, but through respect. Power, in the deepest sense, is not only about forcing others. It is about building a system that continues to work tomorrow. And when you look at history, you see a simple lesson. The strongest countries are not always the loudest. They are the ones that build foundations and keep them strong for decades. That is what true power looks like.